Smallville was a fan favorite back in the day, rightfully so, as it brought the long-absent Clark Kent and Superman back to our TV screens. Unfortunately, the show ended long ago, but with Superman back on the big screen via several DCEU films, fans are hoping that the Smallville creators would reboot the Superman show. Keep watching this video to find out if that'll ever happen. What you need to know. The producers of Smallville have addressed the question of whether or not they would be interested in reviving the popular Superman series. Tom Welling played Clark Kent on the original Smallville, which aired from 2001 to 2011. Clark Kent's rise to fame as Superman and Lex Luthor's fall to villainy were both chronicled here, making up their origin stories. Kent's return to the Arrowverse has stoked renewed interest in the character and speculation about a possible Smallville remake. More than a decade has passed since Al Gow and Miles Millar wrote the script for Man of Steel, yet they found success as the authors of the successful Netflix series Wednesday. With Wednesday and possible Addams Family spin-offs in the works, they haven't had much downtime to work on a reboot in recent weeks. So, is Smallville being rebooted? In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, when questioned about the possibility of Smallville remake, the show's busy creators quickly put the idea to bed when questioned about the possibility of a Smallville remake. Here's what they had to say. That story is out there now, and they're always updating Superman. So I think we did that. Last night I saw that James Gunn is penning a new Superman film aimed at a younger audience. And all I can say is, okay, the Smallville story will be left alone. The days of Smallville appear to be over, as DC has announced that Superman would be the company's main focus going forward. While a modest CW production posed no problem for DC in 2001, the birth of the DC Universe resulted in Superman's return to the big screen to a degree not seen since the Christopher Reeve films. Smallville's tale has already been explored extensively, and DC's new creative director James Gunn has made it plain that the company will be exploring Superman stories that don't include his origin. Simply put, don't expect to see a Smallville reboot, at least not in the James Gunn era. What does Superman have in store? Since Superman and Lois already give TV audiences more than enough Clark Kent tales, it's unlikely we need another show set in Smallville. Despite the widespread praise for Henry Cavill's turn as Superman, Gunn has already stated that the role will be recast with a younger actor for the DCU. Cavill's retirement from the role of Superman joins that of Welling from Smallville, raising many doubts about who will succeed them and what they will accomplish in the reimagined DC universe. Although this implies that Black Adam's cinematic cameo from Superman won't resolve anything, it opens the door to a potentially fascinating portrayal of a younger version of the hero in a shared universe with Batman and the Justice League. A DCU Superman movie is indeed in the works, but it won't be the only Superman movie released in theaters in the near future. Despite the recent cancellations of Wonder Woman 3 and Man of Steel 2, J.J. Abrams is still working on his Black Superman reboot. Like Tim Burton's The Batman, J.J. Abrams' reboot will take place in an alternate reality and won't interfere with canonical DC comic stories. Superman movies and shows will remain popular for many years to come, but Smallville is unlikely to get a new season. James Gunn could use the Andor model to reboot Smallville, although the producers of Smallville on the CW have no plans to attempt a reboot. James Gunn's new Superman project may use what they call the Andor approach. Even though the CW show ran for a decade and helped pioneer the DC television genre, Smallville's devoted fan base refuses to let go. Nonetheless, if James Gunn's film about a young Superman isn't an origin narrative, he may have to start over. If so, the show would take more cues from Andor than the original series. According to Al Gow and Miles Millar, who recently discussed the possibility of a Smallville revival, Gunn's movie will already cover that ground. The reverse, however, is also possible. Superman's director James Gunn has hinted that the film will begin with Kal-El already donning the cape and shield, much like the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Spider-Man and Matt Reeves' The Batman do. Gunn could convey his version of the Smallville story, minus the weekly adventure requirements of broadcast TV, because of his desire to have the DC Universe connect across media. When the Proto-Justice League and Lois Lane were added to Smallville, the show had already gone beyond its original remit. Gunn would be wise to stay away from the show because nothing can replace its enchantment. In its place, his prequel series may take audiences' share from Andor. A miniseries could work for a young Superman story. The challenge of writing a prequel is that the author has less room to work with from the get-go. To get around this problem, Smallville expanded Clark's world after he graduated high school, but before he donned the suit. If Gunn decides not to include Superman's origin story in his Superman movie, a spin-off limited series may fill the void. Clark Kent doesn't even have to get into a real fight for this to work. Similarly to Andor, his enemy may take the form of a fear of his identity being discovered or captured by the government. For several seasons, a deep character exploration, only the concept of Clark learning that he is an alien with no further answers is sufficient. Superman's early life was only touched on briefly in the Richard Donner and Zack Snyder films. Donner primarily centered the story around Clark's late adolescent years, when he was grieving his father's death and coming into his own. Snyder performed the same thing, although he focused on moments from Clark's teenage years. If these moments were given their due in a limited series, they could flourish without the constraints that plagued Smallville. The death of Pa Kent is an important event in all Superman origin narratives. The writers finally came close to making the audience experience that loss in Smallville, rather than just understanding it. The true Superman origin story might be told in a limited series with the pacing and, in the right moments, the tone of Ander. It might investigate how much worry Ma and Pa Kent had for their son. Clark understood this concept quite clearly after watching the moment in Man of Steel, where he can find himself in a closet as a child. However, the suspense may be sustained over a limited series through a sequence of lighter moments that eventually led to Kal-El's release from jail. The legend of how Superman came into existence is primary. Losing a loved one is the catalyst for every Batman and Spider-Man type storyline. The cinematic adventures of those heroes' modern incarnations began after that, so Gunn's film can pursue that route. But the weight of an entire world rests on Superman's shoulders. Raised as an extraterrestrial by humans in the Midwest of the United States, his upbringing is vital to the hero he becomes, but in a way that is not as obvious as Bruce Wayne's or Peter Parker's. One of the reasons that Superman is so special is that his mask is also his real face, so to say. And because Kal-El had the same experience as every kid who felt like an outsider, similar stories are easy to rethread. Some significant character context is provided by how he emerges from that experience, as he is dedicated to not killing, protecting every life, and being everyone's friend. In the film, this can be a subtext. There hasn't been a good opportunity for in-depth psychological and emotional exploration of fiction's most beloved character on screen, but a limited series on HBO Max could be the perfect platform. A reboot, in this sense, would be similar to Smallville, but it wouldn't be an attempt to recreate the original story. The showrunners are correct in thinking that viewers must get new insights into the character for the show to continue to have an impact. And because of Gunn's strategy, they can accomplish it with the right amount of work. Smallville star Michael Rosenbaum shares secrets and regrets from the 10-season run, speaks of how his grandmother's death coincided with landing Smallville role. Over 2 decades have passed since the first episode of Smallville aired, and nearly 10 since the series' 10-season, 217-episode run on the CW concluded. Since then, movies and television shows based on comic books have taken on a life of their own. Yet the groundbreaking nature of Smallville, which starred Tom Welling as Clark Kent and Michael Rosenbaum as Lex Luthor on their respective journeys to becoming Superman and his greatest enemy, respectively, have not been forgotten. After the actors had discussed where they were when they found out they had booked Smallville, Rosenbaum shared a previously untold tale. While on his way to an audition, he called his grandma to tell her about the job and explained that he'd had a nightmare in which his grandmother died. In a rare moment of confidence, Rosenbaum's grandma told him, "You're going to get this one." A week later, his grandma died. As soon as he got home from the funeral, he got a text from his agent saying that he had landed a role on Smallville. "It was emotional," Rosenbaum admitted, "but I remember she said that." Rosenbaum's departure and subsequent return for the series finale was the most striking departure from the norm. Rosenbaum said that, due to his ADD, he was ready to explore by the 7th season, or even before that. Rosenbaum also acknowledged that there were glimmers of greatness on the program, but there were other episodes that were just okay, and ones you'd want to get rid of totally. And he blamed the challenge of maintaining 22 episodes of television for it. So guys, do you think it's a great idea to reboot Smallville? Or should the DCEU scrap the idea and look forward to the future? Let us have your thoughts in the comments section. And if you found this video entertaining, then it'll be great if you like and share it so your pals can watch it too. Last, but certainly not least, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tap the notification bell to keep getting more interesting content like this.